Jesus says actually quite a bit about the Sabbath. And I guess the first thing that comes to mind is the end of Mark chapter 2, where Jesus and his disciples are plucking the grain, and they're criticized for doing that on the Sabbath. But of course, his response is that King David did the same thing. Man's hunger overrode some of the objections that were brought up to him. So I would say Jesus said that the Sabbath was made for humanity, and humanity was not made for the Sabbath. That's the important thing that he tried to get across then, that he was the Lord of the Sabbath. And because he was the Lord of the Sabbath, he could annul the Sabbath, but he didn't do that. He kept it in place because he knew it would benefit his followers. So the purpose, again, of the Sabbath, Jesus tells us, was to enter into the eternal rest of God. And what that means, I think, is having fellowship with God, having fellowship with those created in his image, and so forth. So we're to celebrate the weekly Sabbath until Jesus returns again. We're reminded to look back at the Garden of Eden, what took place there with Adam working in the garden. It wasn't labor so much, it was probably more of an opportunity not to labor, as I said, but to just to worship God as he was being faithful to what God had called him to do in the garden. And so you're looking back in the Sabbath, but you're also looking forward. And we're looking forward ultimately to the eternal Sabbath that God has put together for us. God hasn't been working since he completed his creation in the creation account. So the thing I find it's important to remember is as we remember, just like we say in communion every Sunday, we remember what Christ has done for us, and we look forward to him coming back again. The same thing with regard to here, where we recognize that the completion is on its way. Jesus is returning, and we also know that he's bringing along with him the new creation that was already inaugurated with his death and resurrection, but it will be consummated when Jesus returns. So there's a lot to look forward to according to what Jesus has told us. There's plenty to look back on and remember how God has blessed us, and there's also the blessing that we'll experience in the future as Jesus returns. And a new creation that, as we read in Romans 8, that the earth has been longing for as it thinks of the pains of childbirth, this eternal Sabbath that God has promised us has come to fruition.